Every animal wants kindness. However big Tigger seems to be, remember that he wants just as much kindness as Roo. Winnie the Pooh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am a firm believer in racial unity and a fair go for all. My name is Lydia Verschaffelt, but you could correctly pronounce that Verschaffelt. And although I am the 5th generation of my family living in New Zealand, my last name identifies me as being Belgian, although I'm actually more Irish than Belgian, and I also have a bit of Scottish and English in me as well. I myself am an example of a mixture of different peoples, as I believe are many of you here tonight. For are we not all the products of various cultures united in one body? Yet, none of you knew my racial background. You saw a white girl who probably has as much of a fair go as anyone else. As soon as I got out of my seat, many of you, without possibly knowing it, made assumptions about who I am, what I like doing, and where I probably live. And therefore, some of you may be surprised to learn that I have lived all of my life in Maryvale, Tauranga's lowest socio-economic area. When I was preparing this speech, I felt quite uncomfortable, as yes, I believe we are all equal. Yes, I believe we must eradicate racial stereotypes and discrimination. And yes, I believe in a fair go for all. But who am I to talk about the necessity of it? I'm just me. So I've decided to tell you about some of my racial interactions as I have known them. Living in Maryvale, I walked to and from Tauranga Intermediate School. And for those 2 years, I was known as that white girl who walks fast. This was not really for my general fitness, but occurred as when the bell went at 3 o'clock, I moved quite fast to get in front of some intimidating groups of students. For my first few days as a Year 7, I tried walking slowly with them. I was rewarded with threatening looks and jeers. When most of the white students turned right into the avenues, I was one of a few white faces turning left towards Maryvale. On a few occasions, a group of boys threw stones at me when I walked, and girls would yell insults. I did not walk fast because I believed I was better than them and their cultures. I walked fast because I didn't feel safe. It was my reality for 2 years. And surely, just because I am white doesn't make that discrimination any less hurtful and doesn't mean I had a fair go. And I'm sure many of you have had a similar experience, no matter what your race is. As the Baha'i writings say, remedies to racial prejudice and intolerance must address first and foremost those mental illusions that have, for so many thousands of years, given rise to false concepts of superiority and inferiority. Therefore, before everyone can have a fair go, we must understand why certain races believe they are different to others. Ever since ancient civilizations, certain races were deemed higher than others, with the lower races often being used as slaves. This practice continued throughout history, and even now, there are more slaves in the world than ever before. In this sense, racial discrimination can be viewed as occurring for economic reasons. Human greed, needing cheap labour to make money. Even tonight, I wonder how many of the clothes in this room are made in China. We know that slave labour in sweatshops is wrong, but how many of us boycott products made in China and countries with other similar human rights abuses to give those workers a fair go? It begs the question, is it because they are Chinese? If there was a similar sweatshop operation happening in Ponsonby, we would be up in arms. We wouldn't stand for it. Therefore, why are we standing for it? Condoning it even, by buying goods from what is essentially slavery, just because it is happening in a different country to a different group of people. Another mental illusion is that of insecurity. Especially in hard times when people have been struggling, They have been vulnerable to the idea that they haven't hit rock bottom, as they are still better than another race. This race acts as a scapegoat for their fears and anxieties, such as the oppression of African Americans in America during the Great Depression. It therefore logically follows that the first step to giving everyone a fair go is empowering every race equally. We must also eradicate racial stereotypes that have been programmed into us by the media. Imagine I tell you right now that we are going to play a game of charades. You know, the customary charades game at every speech competition. It's your turn, and I want you to think really hard about how you would answer each of these, how you would mime them out. French, Samoan, English, Japanese, Irish, Māori, or even Australian. Every idea that just came into your head is an example of stereotyping, and I'll bet many of them could be perceived as negative. It is these same stereotypes that influence us every time we meet a new person. To give everyone a fair go, it is still perfectly fine to acknowledge we are different. As Yolanda King said, what we need to do is learn to respect and embrace our differences, until our differences don't make a difference in how we are treated. A whakatauki that reinforces this is e koe koe te tui, e kite kite te kaka, e kuku te kereru. The tui sings, the kaka chatters, the pigeon coos. We were made different to live together. Blaming each other for failures in the past isn't going to get us a brighter future. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, we may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. We are all human. We all have fears and insecurities, passions and hopes. As Shylock says in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, if you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If we can all learn to meet every new person without preconceived ideas, celebrate our differences, and realise that we are one, everyone can have a fair go. I have a dream that when I have children and they are old enough to go to school, they and all of the children of New Zealand will be able to walk as fast or as slow as they like. Thank you.